So you can ask me question. If you have anything that you didn't understand, you can just drop those queries on the chat box, and I can address those. If you have also missed out any slides, you can just let me know. What is the requirement to get trained? See, it varies from, you can say, place to place, country to country. In India, if you want to get, you can say, treated as an addiction counselor, it is always good if you go for a higher study, not limiting yourself to a graduation, but you go for a master's. And if possible, then you go for a MPhil. Along with that, if you have a good amount of other certifications that are related to addiction counseling, and have more internship in rehabs, so that you know what is the culture of a rehab, because knowing the culture is also part of the ethics, because ethics is something that you carry every day with you, and that is how you provide your therapy. So in this case, these are the things that you may have to do. Okay, we have a question. Sometimes family holds very negative attitude towards people with addiction. How do you tackle these in therapy? So this comes under family disease. So along with the therapy that we provide to our client, we do a good amount of family counseling also, where we first introduce them to the disease of addiction, where we explain them the person is sick, he is not mad or he is not bad. And then we also help them to understand their issues and their concerns. So in that case, it becomes a very holistic approach. We don't only work with the client, but we also include the family. So in that case, in this way, if the therapy is continued, the acceptance increases in the family members also, and they will start accepting the person's disease as well. What is the requirement to get trained? Will a PG course help us? Yes, PG course helps us, but with a PG course, with a master's in psychology or in counseling psychology, it is always good if you can also apply for a higher degree. Let's say MPhil in clinical psychology or MPhil in rehabilitation psychology. Nowadays, these 2 degrees are provided by RCI, so you can apply for those degrees. They actually make you an authentic professional, you can say, by giving you a license to practice. So it makes your profession more, you can say, scientific and more authentic. And along with that, you can do different certifications that will help you to learn these skills, that will help you to increase your knowledge in addiction counseling. I think it's from Miss Archana. Okay, now I got your question. Yeah, it's a wonderful question. While giving addiction counseling to close family members, as a therapist, can we provide therapy to our family members? When you are studying psychology or you are studying a specialized branch that deals with mental health, it is always mentioned that as a therapist, you cannot practice upon your family members or a close relative or a friend. So in that case, although you may know that what is the problem, but it is always better to seek a professional help who can actually give a non-judgmental, you can say, more evidence-based impression about the problem. Because as a relative, sometimes we can become biased. We may not be able to touch certain areas, sensitive areas, that which a therapist can actually touch upon because he or she is not related. So in this case, it's always better that we should not deal with our own family members or loved ones as a therapist. And it is difficult for the person also to open up in front of a known person. So that can be a challenge. So it's always good to seek a professional, although even if you are a professional as well. I think Ms. Jyoti has raised her hand. Ms. Jyoti, you can ask your question. You just unmute yourself and you can ask your question. Okay. Ms. Parvati has asked a question. How do we find if the client is misusing some other drug? So today's topic was ethics, but this question seems not so to the point, but I will try to address this. See, there are different ways you can check if the person is misusing. There are different kind of drug tests available. They are available in pharmacies. They are also available in rehabilitation institutes. Even we have those tests. So you can always go for such tests, and those tests will help also to give you a better understanding if the client is using a mixture of many substances or if the client is using only a particular substance. So you can go for such drug screening test, and they are very simple, and you can get the report within few hours, and that will actually also give you more evidence to present in front of the client and say that, okay, you need treatment now, so you need to go for counseling. So you can do a boundary setting with the person. I hope I was able to address your answer, Ms. Parvati. Sorry, I was able to address your concern. Yes, any more question, anything you'd like to contribute or you'd like to say from your own experience as a professional? So, Ms. Parvati, you asked the question in terms of dual diagnosis. Even in terms of dual diagnosis, you can go for the drug screening test. And with dual diagnosis cases, if the person is already abusing some substance and also has a comorbid condition, it is also always advisable, even to the family member, that the medication should not be given in their hands. It is always better to give the medication and check if the person is taking it or not, and keep the medication along with the family member. And that's the same thing that any mental health institution obeys. They don't give the medicines, even a paracetamol, to the client. They always keep it safe with themselves, and as per the time and schedule and the prescription, the nurse team will provide the medication. So in that case, you ensure that the person is not actually taking any kind of substance without your knowledge. Can we give counseling directly to the client, or there is a need of psychiatrist's reference, sir? No, there is no need for any reference, but the general counseling is saying that the psychiatrist is going to give, or a mental health or any other mental health professional is going to give. So you can approach anyone. Most of the mental health professionals, they work as a team because everybody knows their limitations in this profession. So it's simple, like it's a medical practice, right? If you go to a general physician and while talking to you, if the person feels that, okay, it's a gynec problem, he or she is not going to deal with the case. He or she will say that, okay, I think you need a better expert in this. So he or she will refer you to a gynecologist or to a neurologist. So similarly, in this case, when a case comes to us and when we talk to them, and if we see that, okay, the person is okay, he just needs basic counseling, so we will do. But if we feel, or if we get a hunch that, okay, there can be some kind of underlying psychiatric condition involved, to rule out that, we always suggest them or refer them to a psychiatrist. So at Hope Trust, we work as a team here. We always have a reference point in case we feel that there's a need. But for a general counseling, you can go to anyone, just to know about the substance problem, just to know about how to deal with it in a, you can say, from a individual point of view. For those things, you can consult any mental health professional. It's always better that you consult somebody who is an expert in addiction, instead of just going here and there and getting confused. How to diagnose nervous system? Sorry, Jyoti, I don't think I can answer this question because this is not related to today's topic. You are welcome to put this question on our training email ID or on our info email ID. That will help you. There we can address you the question. So you can just note down the email address and you can put across this question. And we'll try to help you with that. Okay, we have another question. If the client is not in a position to give consent, can we seek family consent alone? Yes, initially you can seek family consent. For the initial time period, you can admit the client, but there is a limited period till when this consent stays valid. After that, it is the client who needs to give consent. So family consent is helpful, but it may not be a long-lasting consent, because automatically the consent has to come from the client. So there are situations where admissions are taken where the family gives consent, and in the gradual process of therapy, the client feels motivated, and then he signs for his own consent form and finishes the program. So that can also happen. Do we stop therapy if client disagrees? Yes, the call is taken by the client and the family member. There the institution is not going to put any kind of pressure, because that is also an unethical thing. We always, you can say, encourage the client that, okay, if you do the program, this is what can happen. If you don't do the program, this is what can happen. But ultimately the call has to be taken by you. And we also encourage the family that, okay, you sit and you talk and you discuss. So we always give them that room to discuss and make the call. In case he does not agree, then we don't have any other option. We have to release the client. And we have to wait that, okay, he or she may come back again. How to handle a situation where the client agrees but the family member disagrees? It's a rare case. But yes, there are family members who may disagree for a long-term program, let's say, but maybe for a short-term program. So in that case, initially we can encourage the family member to consent for a short-term program and see if they are seeing any kind of changes. But this is a rare situation, Ms. Padma, where family is not agreeing. Most of the time, family agree for a rehabilitation program, but the challenge comes from the client's side. Very exceptionally, we can say, we see rare cases where family will disagree, because a rehabilitation program is treated as the last option. Okay, we went for counseling, we went to faith healers, we went to doctors, we did so many things, nothing helped. So the last option is left to go to a rehab. So family are more willing to come for a rehabilitation program for their family members who are suffering from substance abuse problem. But to take admission, it is essential that along with the client, there has to be somebody who needs to sign the overall consent form. Any more question? Anything else you'd like to ask related to ethics or medical legal aspect? So if there is no question, we can end for today, and we can again meet next Sunday or maybe Saturday with an upcoming webinar topic. If you have any question which is not coming to your head right now, you can just email us. The email ID is given.
Thank you so much, Mr. Riju, for a wonderful and amazing session. I'm sure all of us were enlightened. Thank you so much, and we look forward for all the participants to join us in our future webinars and other workshops as well. Thank you for attending, and have a nice day.